Does anybody want to guess why I'm here? What are y'all talking about in your health class right now?
Tobacco.
Okay, so different drugs, good. What else?
Smoking and like different smokes and how it affects you.
Okay, good. So smoking and I'm sure alcohol has been in the mix. And then you also are in 8th grade, so what's a big step in your life next year? Yeah.
Oh, high school.
High school, right? And so my goal for you kids today is to give you everything I wish I would have known going into high school and kind of the magnitude of and importance of the choices you make. And we're going to get into why it's so important. But before we do that, I want everyone to get a notebook out and a writing utensil. Okay? I'm not going to force you to write notes, but I am going to tell you when I say really important things. The reason, kids, I think you should value this speech more than others is because I'm young and I can remember when I was your age. I literally graduated from here, 2024? I graduated in 2016, so 8 years ago. I was in your seats. So I still have vivid images of what it was like to be you and what you're about to go through versus, your parents who are like 40. High school for them was definitely way different than the way it was for me. So, what we're going to do today. Does anyone want to guess why I'm coming here to talk about this? Like, why should I come and talk to your health class about this? Part of the big part I'm adding to CTG is called sports psychology. Does anybody know what psychology means? Anyone? Does anyone have a guess of?
Something to do with like mentality, basically.
Okay, yep. So everyone write down psychology. Okay, so that's a class you can take in high school, but that's basically the study of the mind and the brain and how it functions and why you do what you do, why you do what you think. And we're going to get into why it's so important, but how it relates to what you're talking about in health class and how it translates to high school. But I want everyone to give examples of stuff that's very important to them in their life. So examples could be sports, friends, family. I just took a few away from you. Okay. Water? Okay. Let's think of something you enjoy. Water's a necessity, yes. Example, basketball is not a necessity, but it's a huge value of someone's life. Does that make sense?
Pets.
Pets, there you go. Beautiful. What else? I said family. Do any of you play an instrument? Yeah? What instrument you play?
Clarinet.
Clarinet? Don't worry about my spelling, kids. It's probably wrong. I'll put down music. What else? Give me one more. Come on.
School.
School. Okay, that's really good. All right. Now, kids, there's one thing, and I shouldn't say kids. I say kids because a lot of my, people I train are in 5th grade. You're young adults. You're going into high school. All right. There's one thing in life that you can't do anything without. Does anyone want to guess what that is? It's with you with whatever you do. It's always there. What's psychology? Study of the what?
The mind.
The mind. Okay? So everyone should have some similar diagram that looks like this. Okay? But I need everyone to write this down. You don't experience anything in life without the mind. Write that down, that phrase. You literally cannot do anything in life without it being experienced by your mind. So what's the most important thing to protect, focus on, make good decisions for? Arguably.
The mind.
The mind, right? So if it's related to literally everything in your life, okay, that's what we want to focus on in terms of protecting. But there's also a flip side to that, right? So say I work and train and increase and learn more about the mind, it improves a lot of things in my life, right? It brings everything in your life that you care about up. What happens if you don't make good decisions for your mind? Everything gets worse. And it's not just some things, everything, because that's your experiencer, the only thing you can experience and filter. Does that make sense? So you see why this is like super, super important? Yes? Do we all see that? Okay. Now, how this all relates to what you're talking about in health class. The reason this all relates, and this is very important to understand, your mind in high school, this is called your adolescent years, is at the most vulnerable state it'll ever be in your entire life. What does vulnerable mean?
hurt easily.
It can be easily harmed or hurt. So that means everything you do and everything you say, everything you think, every action you take, okay, has a lot more importance compared to making decisions when you're 30. Does that make sense? So the path of your life, depending on what you do, say, think, consume in high school, is drastically more important than, say, later on when you're 30. Does that difference make sense? And the reason for that is because your brain's developing at a very fast rate. That isn't developing like it is when you're an adult. Are we getting why it's so important? Yes? Okay. So that's what I want you to soak in, because with all of this, what we're talking about, most people talk about, the what, why it's so bad for you, right? We know it's bad for you, but when you get older, do people still do it? Some people, yes, okay? But what not a lot of people talk about is the timing and the place, so the setting or environment, okay? And right now we're talking about time. So what did I just say about high school? This is the period you're going into. Why is that so crucial to how drugs and alcohol relate to the brain?
Your brain is most vulnerable.
Everyone write that down. So your brain development is the most vulnerable from freshman year in high school to senior year in high school. Okay? And so examples of this, kids, and I didn't want to come in here with a bunch of statistics, and I want to get one thing straight. I am not coming in here to tell you all the answers or everything that's right and wrong. Okay? I don't know a lot of answers still. I'm continually growing, and getting how you grow is you prove your previous self wrong. Okay? I want to give you tools on how you find your own true answers. Does that make sense? Never blindly listen to someone. Take in their information, find out if it's true for yourself, then make decisions. Does that make sense? So I'm going to give you tools to learn how to do that. But I didn't want to, I'm sure in health class you have a lot of statistics. Okay? So an example of how making decisions when you're in high school, eyes and ears when you're done writing, okay? An example of making decisions when you're in high school of, say, alcohol, right? You drink alcohol below the age of 18, you're drastically more likely to end up in juvie, get into altercations physically with other people, and getting into trouble with the cops. Like this statistic, you're more likely later on in life, and this is like, you could have done it when you were, say you're 30 and you did it 15 years ago, the way your brain works and the way it's wired is way different because you made that decision. Does that make sense? And I'm going to say it right away, I never did anything in high school. Okay, and I think that's a big part of why I've been successful outside of high school, is because my brain didn't have such, poor decisions in development. Okay, but are mistakes a part of the process? Yes or no? Yeah. Okay, but why do you think we as humans grow so fast? Why have we been growing so fast? Because we listen to who? When you talk to your grandparents, what do they like to talk about normally?
Their past.
Their past, their life, right? Things that they did wrong or things they wish they would have done differently, correct? Right? So we listen to people that are wiser and smarter than us because it helps us not make the same mistakes. Because if you don't make those same mistakes, are you going to grow faster? Yeah, because you don't have to go through the same trials that the wiser or older person is trying to help you with. Does that make sense? So again, I'm just suggesting and showing you the importance of why you should take careful time in what you decide to do in high school. Are we cool? Are we all on the same page? Yes? Cool. Okay, now, place. Okay, there's a very famous quote that's being overused at this point, but it's true. Okay, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. What does that mean? Close. It will, that's a very close answer. It will literally change who you are based on the people you're around. Okay, so there's this thing. Okay, this right here, whoops, that's the eraser. This right here is the mind. Okay, most of us, and we're going to get into it, if we don't practice mindfulness, that means there's a lot of things under our awareness. So this are all things we can't see in our brain, okay, that make us who we are, that drive us, okay? The things that are above are the things you can see. So I'm sure you've had, thoughts that you've heard or music in the back of your mind. Has anyone ever had that? So that's in your awareness. But there's a lot of things going in the background that we can't see, and that's what that quote's talking about, okay? People subtly influence you without you knowing it, right? You pick up on things without trying, okay, which it makes you you, which is why the 5 people you're with the most, okay, influence who you become. Does that make sense? I train and we'll talk about it, we want to train you to bring this arrow down so you have more in your awareness so you can make better choices for what you want in life. Does that make sense, what I just said, and the 5 people you hang out with? So you're not going to show me, you're not going to tell anyone, but I want you to write down the 5 people you're around the most right now. And this can be your parents, right? And that's why a lot of us do end up becoming like our parents. Why? Because are they 2 of the people that are probably in your top 5? Yeah. And that's why you pick up on subtle things, even when you're not trying to. We're going to come back to that. So has everyone got a almost list completed? Okay, we're going to come back to that list. Okay? Now, before we talk about the tools that I can give you to make better decisions, we have to talk about 2 very important words. Okay, and in my last speech I used this word a lot, and I'm not as big of a fan of it because people see the word and think tons of different things. Okay, but does anyone want to tell me the difference between pleasure and happiness?
Lasts for a long.
That's beautiful. That's exactly what I was looking for. So pleasure's short term, and let's put real. Okay, real happiness is long lasting. Okay, that's a beautiful definition. So just remember, pleasure is short, happiness is long term. All right? Now, we're going to figure out how this relates to everything. All right? Does anybody want to tell me what wealth means?
The amount of money you have.
Yes, some people would consider that. What else is another concept of wealth, or what people would consider it?
Just having a lot of things.
Okay, this is really good. So this is what a lot of people get backwards. Okay? Most people think wealth is having a lot of things. How pleasure works, it's short-term lasting, correct? Okay, so we get something, it feels good, but then it goes away. So what do?
Get more.
We try and go get another pleasure, right? So we feel good for a little bit a second, then we lose it. More pleasure, okay? How this all relates to wealth, if you're constantly wanting, if you're constantly needing more, are you wealthy? Or are you starving? Which one? Are you starving if you constantly need more? Yes. Okay, so people have that backwards. They think if they get more things, right, they're wealthy. No. That means you need more to be happy. It's backwards, right? True wealth is needing less, wanting what you have now. That's true wealth. And that's the difference between pleasure and happiness. And that's why drugs, alcohol, and other stuff is so addicting, because it's an escape. It's a form of that short-term pleasure, right? But there's something called domino effects. Does anyone know what that means, that term?
Really stop it.
Yeah, right? So once you make one decision, it's really easy to make that decision again and again. It becomes easier and easier. Does that make sense? So that's why we have to be super careful when talking about this stuff and establishing what you truly want. I'm sure for all of you, you want this. But most of us mistake the decisions we make in high school for this guy right here. Does that make sense? And I was literally reading a book last night, and I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to talk about this in class. So stay with me for 30 seconds, but this is just a quote from a book, and this is probably how most people operate. They just try and get as much comfortable feelings as possible and less uncomfortable feelings, okay? Pleasures, however refined or easily acquired, are by their very nature fleeting. They begin to subside the moment they arise, okay? You can't get enough of your favorite meal until in the next moment you're so stuffed you can't eat anymore. But then somehow you have room for dessert, right? And he makes a funny comment, by some quirk of physics, you still have room, but you just were full from your favorite meal. Okay, and then you get thirsty from your favorite dessert. Okay, so you need water. The warmth of the sun feels so good on your skin, but then it becomes too much. You get too hot, so then you got to get out of the sun. You need to get away from the sun. You need the shade for immediate relief. And now you're in the shade and you get too cold and you need to get a sweater from your car. And then you realize the sweater in your car isn't as new and cool as you used to think it was, so you need to go get a new sweater. Right? This is how people operate. They're constantly trying to fill a bucket with holes in it, right? And that has a direct correlation with our mind and how we work with drugs and alcohol. Does that make sense? Now, I'm saying you should never have pleasure. No, that's not at all what I'm saying at all. It's a very key part of happiness, but it's being aware of it. It's not mindlessly trying to grab for the next thing over and over again. Do we all see the difference between these two? Because if you really soak that in, most adults don't even get the difference, right? They mistake that for that. Are we on the same page? So if you were here for my speech last year, do you remember what the happiness baseline is? So I just told you what happiness is not, right? It's not pleasure. So what is it? How do we get there? Similar to the mind concept, okay? What can you do nothing without?
Like your heart.
Ooh, close. So yourself, right? Can you do anything without you? No, you're always going to be with you. So who should we spend time focusing on and growing? Yourself, your character, who you are. That's where long-lasting happiness comes from. Not from external things, because as we talked about, that's not going to last. Does that make sense? So a lot of what my speech is today is to give you tools on how you're going to build that and figure out what direction you're on. Okay? This is how it relates back to the setting piece of time and place, right? Now, when I say the 5 people you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with, am I telling you to just drop a bunch of people you think don't have qualities that aren't good for you? I'm not saying that. We still have to have compassion and love towards other people, but I'm telling you to be more aware of who you're around. Right? If you're with other people and you see them doing something that you don't like, you're not going to tell them that they're wrong or they're being bad, but you're aware that it's not something you want to do. Does that make sense? Internally, you know, I'm not going to follow that. Does that make sense? So how it relates to the happiness baseline. Okay, you remember this cup? Does anybody remember this demonstration? So what was it? It's close. You're good. Anybody else want to guess?
Was it your happiness?
Okay, so most of us, like, if we're resting, right, we have an internal baseline that kind of stays there consistently. All right, say we win the lottery, what happens? It goes up. But over time, even though you think it's going to last forever, what does it do? Goes back down. So there's a hole in the bucket similar to the wealth we talked about where people constantly want. Okay? Most people try and fill the bucket, but what should we do? Should we focus on the line? And what did I just tell you is the line? The key to the line.
Yourself.
You're growing yourself, right? That's beautiful. Yourself is the key. Working on yourself. Okay? Because you're always going to be with yourself. And I can attest from personal experience, I've had external successes. I was popular in high school. I had everything someone could want, but it didn't bring me what I was looking for. Because is everyone looking for deep down that happiness and just the consistent life is good kind of feeling? Everyone's looking for that. Okay? But they miss it by not working on the right things. Are there questions about anything I've talked about? Are we seeing how this relates to this subject of your health class and going into high school? Yes? Okay, cool. Now, what we're going to do, okay, is best self. Okay, so can we be our best self 24/7 all the time, never not your best self? No. But can we define what that looks like? Yes. So we know the path of where we're going. So I want all of you right now, you have to write down at least 10 qualities of your dream self. Not your dream life, not everything you want in the future. Okay? What are the qualities as a person do you want? Okay, truly. And something that will help with this is think of someone you look up to. What are the qualities do they have as a person? Okay, why are people so attractive to that person that I look up to? Right? What are the qualities in them that make them really good? Okay, because then we know what you're trying to focus on when you're with other people or what you're trying to grow into. So it's really important that when you're doing this, I really need you to write down grow into your best self, because you're not going to be your best self 24/7, but you can constantly try and work towards it. Okay, so 10 qualities. Examples could be humble, giving, generous, compassionate, loving, great listener, hardworking, asks a lot of questions. Okay, there's no strict guideline at what it has to be. But if you could put yourself on a pedestal and think of what's my best self look like? Am I a leader? Am I someone who likes to influence other people, give speeches? What are the qualities in me? Am I a good speaker? Am I good at communicating? Am I social? So we're not talking about right now. We're talking about your dream self. So, and 10 qualities. Ask yourself who you really look up to. What are they good at? Now, the reason I wanted you to get a notebook is I want you to save that page so you can remember this is what I'm trying to grow into each day, and that's going to lead to what I actually want. Seeing those qualities, you have to compare those to the people that you hang out with. So that's why it relates to the list of the 5 people you're with most. Okay? Now, when growing into your best self, does that mean we're going to start judging other people, and if they don't do something right, then it's like they're off my list? That's not how it works. What did I say is the key to all of this? Just being what? More Aware. So we're not mindlessly with other people and letting their qualities kind of sink into us. Make sense? Now, that's what I'm going to teach you for the last 13 minutes. I should have enough time on how do we actually do that. So, this is the big word I've been talking about. What does that mean?
Like knowing what's going on.
That's perfect. Knowing. You know what you're doing and what's going on. Now, the difference between this and this hot word on the internet, mindfulness, okay? Which one's on purpose?
Mindful.
So I need you to write this down. Awareness on purpose of this moment is what mindfulness is. On purpose is the key word, right? Because are you aware of a lot of things without even trying sometimes? That's not mindfulness. So if you think of yourself as self-aware but you don't do it on purpose, you're not doing it right. Okay? Because if we intentionally try and be aware in moments, say you're with your 5 people, they're not doing something that's a quality that you just wrote down, right? Just paying attention to it so you don't follow the same actions later on, okay, is why mindfulness is such a good quality. Does that make sense? So I'm going to teach you how to do this intentionally, because it's not easy, this word and doing this intentionally. But in moments in high school, you're going to run into so much stuff. So many moments where it stops you in your tracks, whether it's peer pressure, social pressure, where you don't want to do what you're about to do, but you still do it. And that's lack of mindfulness, okay? Because a lot of you act out of what? When you wake up in the morning, do you say your whole routine to yourself in your head? No, you're acting out of what? Habits, right? So everyone write this down. If you don't have mindfulness, you're always acting out of habit. Most of the time. I shouldn't say always. Okay? So if I lack mindfulness, I'm mostly acting out of habit. What's the problem with this? You're going to change and grow a lot if you're always acting out of the same way you did yesterday? No, right? And that's why the on-purpose thing is so crucial. Because if we intentionally be aware on purpose, then we can change those habits or not make those decisions that lead us into traps in the vulnerable brain we talked about earlier. Does that make sense? Cool. Now, to simplify the mind, there's 3 people in our brain. And I like to call this dimensions of the mind. What does the dimensions mean? Well, yes. Okay, so there's 3D movies, 2D movies, so that's a dimension. That's what I mean. So different layers, okay? There's different layers in the mind. What did I just say? If you don't have a lot of mindfulness, you act out of what? You act out of habit. Most people in life live with this guy, the dictator. What's a dictator? Do you have any say if you're a person of the... No. Bosses you around, you're at whim to whatever the dictator says. So the dictator in our case is our what? Our habits. Habits, right? And can habits not just be behavior? Can it be a thought too? And how you experience things? Right? Yes. Okay. So the second guy is called the watcher. Okay, this is where it gets crucial. And this watcher guy, this is what mindfulness is. Okay, so instead of acting out of the same habit we've done, right? So an example could be peer pressure. Someone's peer pressuring you to pick on another person with your social group. Very common thing that happens in high school. Okay, without mindfulness, are you going to act out of the same habit or however you've handled the situation over and over? Without it. Will you do? Yes. Okay, so you're not going to have as much control over the situation. That's what I'm trying to do, is give you more control in the tough situations you'll have in high school. Okay, watching is the on-purpose attention of this moment. So being able to see what's actually going on, trying to focus on what's going on in this moment. Okay, because then I don't fall into the dictator's whims and habits, make poor decisions, and then I'm 30 and my brain's way different than it used to be. Make sense? And then this third person we're not going to work on today, but he's called the wise. Okay? Good example of this. Is there a new movie out that you haven't seen yet? Anybody? Wonka? Oh, the Wonka factory? You haven't seen it though, right? What are your favorite parts about the movie?
Well, like the old one.
Well, hey, you haven't seen the movie, right?
There's the new one.
Okay, the new one. Have you seen the new one? What's your favorite parts about the new movie? You don't know, because you haven't watched it. You haven't seen it, right? So that's why watching is so crucial. Because if you don't watch, you can't negotiate with yourself. You can't say to yourself in this moment, is this the right decision? But I'm going to add this guy for you today because then when you get into those tough situations, eyes and ears when I'm talking, then when you get into those tough situations in high school, okay, you're not going to make poor decisions, or you'll have a less chance of making a poor decision. Cool? And I'm not saying you were going to before, but this is going to help you in those tough situations. I can only teach you step 1, but everyone write this down. The first step to mindfulness, so awareness on purpose, is to recognize. To be able to catch that thought or feeling in the act in the present moment. So what I'm going to teach you today is that ability to recognize, to catch, okay? There's thousands and thousands of thoughts that you kids have a day, and you have no idea because we don't practice this on-purpose awareness. So that's what we're going to do for this activity, okay? I like to call this activity the curious mind activity. So once you've written that down, you have 3 columns. You have thought, feeling, time, and there's a line in between each of them. And then you're going to number them. So we'll do 3 today. 1, 2, 3. This is going to be a fun activity, okay? All you're going to be doing is when I say go, don't do it yet, you're going to close your eyes and truly and curiously ask yourself, I wonder what next thought is going to pop into my head. And you're like prey, or you're like a lion hunting prey, right? You're really keenly looking, what's going to pop out? What's the next thought I'm going to have? Okay, what this does is it suspends your mind. So then you can see clearly and learn how to catch and recognize thoughts and feelings. Does that make sense what we're trying to do here with this activity? Okay, so everyone get comfortable, put your pencils down. Okay, when I say go, you're going to close your eyes and truly ask, what's the next thought? Truly think, what am I going to think next? Or what's the next thought I'm going to have? Okay, I'm going to stop it after 5 seconds, because if you went, I'll say 10 seconds. If you went 10 seconds without a thought, you're not doing it right, because I promise you, you did have one. You're just not looking hard enough. Does that make sense? But you're not trying to think, you're just trying to look and see what appears first. Is that cool? And then after it, you're going to write down what your thought was. You're going to write the feeling that was paired with the thought. And then in time, you're going to say if it's a past, present, or future thought. So an example, if I close my eyes and I do this activity, okay, I thought about the steak I had for lunch. Okay, that made me feel good because I'm not hungry anymore, right? So I felt not hungry, steak, past, because I just ate it. Make sense? But this is building base foundation blocks of how to be aware on purpose. Cool? Are we all ready? Is there any questions with this? No? 3, 2, 1, go. Time. I'm not going to force you to volunteer, but someone give me a volunteer. What was their thought? So I can write it on the board.
What I'm going to have for dinner.
That's beautiful. It's crazy once you start to be more mindful, kids, how much you think about food. What did that pair with your feeling?
Hunger.
Hunger. And time, it's future, right? Why did I add this time piece? I can't get too in depth with it because class is almost over, but where can only your on-purpose awareness be?
Current.
Present. Present moment. We don't want to get lost in the past and future because do those exist? No. What's the only moment that ever exists? This moment. The past is just a thought. Future, just a thought. Isn't that crazy? You can only be here now, always. Never can escape this moment. Constant, continually moving, moment to moment. Cool? So that's good. It shows you where your brain's at a lot. And it gets you to move back into here, because that's going to help you make better decisions in high school. See how this all relates? And I'm not just going in a crazy direction. An example of a present thought. So that's why you normally want to do this in a quiet room. But when I said go, were people talking in the other room? Okay, if you're drawn to that, that's an example of a present thought. You're thinking or listening to what someone is saying, and that's distracting you. Does that make sense, kids? Okay. I tried to cover as much as I could, but the biggest thing with to take away in going into high school, I'm not trying to put pressure on you, but for your brain and who you're going to become, what period of your life in brain development is most vulnerable? High school. So that's the biggest thing to remember, and I promise you mindfulness is going to help you, if you want to, one day grow into that best self that you're looking for. Thank you for having me.